Where did the idea of this come from, and how much money does the city have to put into it?
Well, the idea came from Stephen Ross, and the city's not putting in anything. Stephen and the team are raising the money through philanthropy and going to donate it to the University of Michigan. And for us, it's remarkable. The University of Michigan was founded in Detroit in 1817 and moved out of the city to Ann Arbor in 1837. So 180 years later, a new academic center with 1,000 grad students coming to the entrance of downtown Detroit as part of a huge center. It's just going to be just world-changing for us.
So, Stephen, what inspired you? I mean, we know that you've been a major philanthropist, and particularly for my alma mater, University of Michigan. I believe you're the largest donor by a long shot ever to Michigan. Where'd you come up with this idea?
Well, I serve on the Cornell Tech board in New York, and seeing what they've done and creating this new school that brings together engineering, computer science, information science, business, law, and medicine, and really creating the future leaders, of the country. And in growing companies, either startups or companies, existing companies relocating, it's all about finding talent. And I've seen how it's working in New York is that economic development tool with Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island. And kind of really, my heart has always been in Detroit, being from Detroit originally, and seeing what Detroit, the possibilities and where Detroit is at this stage. And I, approached the mayor and the University of Michigan, and I kind of, told them about the idea, and they both thought it would be great for both Detroit and the University of Michigan. And that started the whole process. And I've known Dan Gilbert for a long time, and he's been wanting to do something together and encouraging me to come to Detroit and develop. And all those things came together at one time, and I think that it's really Detroit that's really going to benefit the community. It's great for the University of Michigan, and I think Detroit's future is that much greater today.
So, Mr. Mayor, who's the audience, so to speak? I mean, who will the students be? Are these undergraduates? Are they grads? Are they people at the beginning of their careers? Are you going to have mid-career people being retooled, maybe out of the auto companies?
I think they will be predominantly graduate students, MBAs, in things like mobility and artificial intelligence and finance and cybersecurity. The jobs of the future, of course, the auto industry here is moving toward automated vehicles and a lot of software. We have a lot of major financial firms, and Detroit's becoming a startup hub already. And with Stephen's plan to build an incubator next door for the students at this graduate school to be able to go directly into startups with their latest ideas, has the potential to really be transformative.
So, Stephen, you referred to the Roosevelt Island venture here that Mike Bloomberg, who was mayor, spearheaded. There was a fair amount of tech in New York already. How much tech is in Detroit, or do you have to attract them from other places, Stephen?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of tech in Detroit. Detroit probably has more engineers than any other place. In the University of Michigan, I think 22% of the students are involved in engineering, computer science, or information science. And there's been a real drain of that talent going to California and all the tech companies out there. So one is to keep the talent home, and because Michigan's really a fertile place for corporations to grow. And just talking to several corporations that have been here, started here, and were acquired by tech companies, they elected to stay in Detroit because of the talent that's here and the people want to be here. I mean, what the mayor has done with Detroit and the position it's in, it's a place where people really want to be, where young people want to be. And I think, corporations go where the talent is, and those young people today are also starting up companies. So, it was really kind of a natural thing, and it's great at this time of what's going on in the country that Detroit is welcoming this and not making an obstacle for companies to start up or to grow here. And that's a big difference in a lot of cities today, if you see what New York did with Amazon.
Mayor Duggan, where does this fit in your overall plan for the revitalization, if I can put it that way, of Detroit? I know that this one, in particular, this University of Michigan venture does not require city funds, but you have, for example, asked for $250 million, as I understand, a bond offering from the city council, which is still pending. Is it time to start taxing the people of Detroit a bit in order to help support some of the revitalization?
Well, I think people in Detroit feel like they've been taxed pretty well, but you've seen the unemployment rate go from 20% to 8% in the last 5 years. And you have seen companies come in like Microsoft and Google and LinkedIn into downtown Detroit, who 5 years ago would have been in the suburbs. Waymo is building their self-driving cars, installing the self-driving systems into cars in the city of Detroit, not in Silicon Valley. Ford Motor Company is moving 5,000 people designing the automated and electric cars of the future into the city of Detroit. And what this does is say to companies who are saying, I can go to Silicon Valley and nobody can afford to buy a house, you can come here in Detroit with cost-effective housing, room to grow, and for those who are publicly spirited, Detroit's small enough you can make a difference, and we're big enough to matter to the world. And so we think we're an attractive place, and Stephen just made us a lot more attractive.
Yeah, I should say. Okay, finally, Stephen, to you. We're just a little time away now from the Fed with their latest rate decision. I wanted to ask a question about the economy generally, how President Trump's economy, how this Fed's economy is affecting Detroit, the state of Michigan. What kind of shape do you think we're in? Because you have a particular viewpoint on that.
Well, I mean, I think business is growing. I think business is concerned, where it's going to go from here. We've had a long period of time since we've had a recession. But I think if you look at the policies of the Trump administration, I think that's been very pro-business and pro-jobs. And, you just look at the unemployment rates. I mean, they've been, at historic lows. So, I mean, I'm very optimistic. But I think Detroit is very unique, though, in terms of where people want to be. And I think this is the time for Detroit to take advantage of all the assets and attributes that it has.